afternoon, good morning, good evening, whatever time that you are catching us, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the one and only Rumboyz Fantasy Network. It's your host, your boy RumboyzRobbie. Make sure that you guys like the content, drop a comment, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and most importantly, share the content as well. We greatly appreciate you guys sharing the content. Look, you ain't got to necessarily share it with your league mates, but I mean, hey, go ahead and rub it in and be like, look, I got a source that's helping me whoop y'all's ass week in and week out, because that's what we're here to do. We're here to help you guys win those fantasy football championships. Want to give a quick shout out to our homies over at Shop GLD. Get your GLD on me. Link is down below in the description. You already know. Yo, it's fantasy football friendly. Training camp is officially underway. Like, it's for real underway. We have teams getting into fights with each other. We have plenty of overreactions happening to certain teams in training camp and certain players in training camp. I'm excited to break down the team that we are talking about today, ladies and gentlemen, and that is no other than the Cincinatti Bengals. That's right. We're jumping right in. We're going to go ahead and knock the Cincinatti Bengals right out the way. We're going to go ahead and just jump right into it. For those who don't know, fantasy football friendly. I go through, take a look at the skill positions through each NFL offense, all 32 teams. And at the end of the special, at the end of this episode, I give them a grade. All right, so let's see how we grade the Cincinnati Bengals when it's all said and done. Look, first things first, we got to talk about no other than Joe Burrow, okay? No other than Joe Burrow, ladies and gentlemen. Probably one of my favorite one of my favorite players that I've ever gotten to cover, that I've ever gotten to watch. You guys see me go out there and draft them damn near in every single fantasy football league that I can. I always have a couple of leagues. I'm well over 30% Joe Burrow exposure. But Burrow did something. Burrow did something that I think that maybe I'm gonna shy away, okay? This has nothing to do with the injuries last season. It has everything to do with potentially the loss of aura, ladies and gentlemen. Will the real Joe Slim Shady Shiesty please stand up? My man showed up to training camp after a summer of fashion shows and everything, showed up to training camp looking like this, looking like this. This is the new Joe Burrow, ladies and gentlemen. Aura down by 9,000. My man's walked into the barbershop, watched Full Metal Jacket the night before, and he was like, give me the Gomer, pal. Like, when you just watch, I don't know if you guys remember this movie, when you just watch Bedazzled, this is what Joe Burrow reminded me of. This is the first thing that popped in my head. Homie pulled off the Jonah Hill, okay, first day, 21 Jump Street, back to school special, all right? My dog, this hairstyle should have stayed back in the 2000s when Eminem did it, all right? It's 2024. The death of Slim Shady is happening for a reason. It's so bad that even Sleeper changed Joe Burrow's picture on the Sleeper app to Slim Shady. For some people, this is aura up. For me, it's aura down. Enough comedy aside, enough jokes aside. Let's actually talk football, ladies and gentlemen, because that's what we're here for. Look, you see here on the screen, Joe Burrow, QB7. That's practically what the consensus is. All right. That's even given, like I talked about earlier, the health issues that Burrow had to go through and overcome last season. I don't think that we deal with that this season. He's had plenty of time to recover. It wasn't a rush to hurry and get back type of situation for Joe Burrow. All right. I think that we get QB7 like Burrow. Okay. It was about, let's see, he started off kind of slow with that calf injury at the beginning of the season. Kind of hard for him to push off. Throwing mechanics were kind of off a little bit because of that. All right. Went on IR around about mid-November with the wrist injury. All right. The alien calf messing up and hindering the mobility, throwing off the throwing mechanics. Had Burrow as QB 31 in fantasy scoring, averaging 8.4 fantasy points per game. He had then caught fire, averaging 296 yards and 2.4 TD passes over a 5-game stretch from week 5 to week 10. So it took Burrow about 4 weeks to get, kind of readjusted with that calf ailment that he was dealing with. During that time frame, he was about QB4, all right, in fantasy points per game. Then, of course, we had to deal with the other injury later on with the wrist. Then that brought in Jake Browning. If weeks 5 through 10 can be any measure as to what Joe Burrow can be, I'm all for going out and drafting Joe Burrow. Of course, I'm obviously all for going out and drafting Big Joe Shiesty. All right. Slim Shady impersonator aside, I'll let that be. Strength of schedule is kind of hard in terms of fantasy outlook. About 27th, QB rank for strength of schedule. I'm having faith with this team, and that's because of the weapons that Burrow has around him. This team's not too far removed, not too many years far removed from a Super Bowl. Now, granted, football years are different than us regular, everyday folks. They're aging at 1,000 miles per minute, But because of the offense that's surrounding Joe Burrow, I think that Burrow can bounce back to finishing around about a QB7. Right now, his ADP consensus is about a QB7. I could see him ending around there so long as he should stay healthy. I do want to get into talking about the backfield with this team. Well, when we talk about the quarterback situation and we talk about the pass catchers, those things are going to be fantasy football friendly with this team. Zach Moss, RB27. That's fair. I don't recommend with this backfield waiting to go here, RB. You're looking at RB2, RB3 conversations when it comes to the two backs in this backfield that we're going to look at mainly today. All right. I get that Moss was effective with the Colts last year. That was during the Jonathan Taylor holdout. In 7 games, he started and played at least 50% of the snaps, finished with 21.1 touches and 98.5 total yards per game. He's likely to be the early down back for Cincinnati. Okay. With maybe Chase Brown getting some work. We'll get into Chase Brown and how I feel about Chase Brown in this Cincinnati offense and what his outlook will be. I think that Zach Moss to start the season off is going to be the main back and is going to be the perennial back for the most part. He'll get, maybe 50 to 60% of the carries. I think that he'll be getting majority of the carries. He'll probably be more efficient with his carries. I feel it's going to be interesting to see this backfield without Joe Mixon. Okay. But I think that not having Joe Mixon and then now having to go to a running back by committee, RBBC, that forces games to be won, football games to be won on Joe Burrow's arm and through the air, which makes the receiving situation and the receiving core that much more profitable when we get into talking about, the receivers and the tight end situations and how equitable that all could play out. All right. So Zach Moss, I'm not too high on. I don't feel like, you need to be building your running back room around. I think that he's a great RB2, even as a RB3. I think that's the conversation that he belongs. And I think that that's the conversation that the Cincinnati backfield as a whole could, should be housed within a RB2, RB3 conversation. Moss was only 41st in yards per route run and 48th in targets per route run. So when we look at PPR situations, that's probably where Chase Brown is more so going to shine and get some more of the work, is in the passing game out of this backfield. And then Moss getting the early down work in between the tackles, pound the rock, maybe in some red zone attempts there. I could see Moss being profitable in that situation. Again, RB2 though. Keeping it with RB2s, keeping it with RB3s. Again, Chase Brown probably to be the pass catching back more so and maintain and solidify himself more so in the pass catching game out the backfield with this team. I see this as a handcuff situation. I see this as your final 3 rounds, your final 4 rounds, when like you start kind of thinking about, all right, well, like, gotta go and get a defense. Oh, gotta go get a kicker. It's like, oh, well, like, because I can still get some depth. Those like final like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 rounds, the end of the draft, things are dying down. Everyone's drunk as shit. And you're like, oh, wait, this player's still on the board. Chase Brown wouldn't be a bad pick, late round flyer to go and get. Definitely a sleeper. Well, fantasy football diamond in the rough, if you will, with Chase Brown. Okay. This offense actually has 2 diamond in the rough. So I'm going to talk about Chase Brown being the first one. Brown was impressive on a per touch basis. All right. Very, very small sample size. Only had 44 carries. Out of qualifying backs, total 77 backs with at least 40 carries. Brown ranked 12th in yards after contact per attempt and 16th in missed tackles forced per attempt. Both those stats per fantasy points data. All right. I like Chase Brown because I feel like he could emerge down the stretch. It's a different situation, though, for Zach Moss than what he dealt with in Indy. He is the veteran coming into the situation. I expect him to feed the veteran early. Chase has been coming along. He's been in the league now. This is his 2nd season? Yes. Yes, heading into his 2nd season, still young. Doesn't have, the wear and tear of the NFL. RB38. Look, there's nothing wrong with taking a late round flyer on Chase Brown. Let me actually just double check something. I want to see whereabouts, like, there's no way that, yeah, okay, so Chase Brown is going like round 12. All right. So round 12, like I was about to say, you're definitely grabbing Chase Brown over like a guy like a Rico Dowdle. Like, Chase Brown is probably more so in that Blake Corum, Marshawn Lloyd conversation or around that value, in which I like, and that's great. You basically grab him after like Austin Eckler. Like, Austin Eckler's also in that range as well. Okay. So definitely, something to think about, something that I want you guys to definitely go out there and keep in mind and look at. Again, looking at a different one. Yeah, see Chase Brown even around that Trey Benson range, who, when I cover the Cardinals, definitely going to highlight super high on Benson and what his upside can look like. But Chase Brown, big upside play, handcuff type of play, late round sniper, diamond in the rough. Let's keep it moving here and let's get into the passing game. All right. Take a sip of this coffee. Let's get into the passing game. Let's start with wide receiver 1, obviously. And that's no other than Ja'Marr Chase. All right. When we talk about wide receiver 1 for the Cincinnati Bengals, he could very well, you could make an argument that he could even be wide receiver 1 in fantasy overall. All right. Consensus has him in PPR formats, wide receiver 3. I have no problems if you go and you get Tyreek Hill over Ja'Marr Chase. I have no problems if you go and get Justin Jefferson over Ja'Marr Chase. Me personally, this is a RumboyzRobbie take. This is not anything that I've grabbed off of any other site or notes or anything. These are my personal rankings. I have Ja'Marr Chase as wide receiver 2. I feel like it should be Justin Jefferson, Ja'Marr Chase, Tyreek Hill, CeeDee Lamb, Devontae Adams. That I feel like that's how, when we're talking about receivers in fantasy, it should shake out like that. A.J. Brown after Devontae, that's the way that I am ranking 2024 receivers. I'll do a completely separate video, all my receiver rankings. I'll do it as a short, release it on TikTok. I'll let you guys see my damn list. It's a personal preference for me. Burrow, Chase has always been a thing since the two have been connected in the NFL, since the two have been connected in the league. Their careers are destined to forever be intertwined together, and you can even stack. All right, and we know that I love a good old-fashioned stack. You can go Ja'Marr Chase in the first round. All right. Let's say, everyone's going on, a QB type of, or early QB run. Let's say, it's Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Christian McCaffrey, Lamar Jackson, let's say Justin Jefferson goes, Mahomes goes. I have no problems with you going at 1-7 Ja'Marr Chase. And that's given if there's not a tight end premium situation going on there, because then you know that somebody in that league is looking at the scoring settings, and then in the first round, there's going to be some Sam Laporta coming off the board. There could be a Travis Kelce coming off the board if it's tight end premium. So Ja'Marr Chase, you can actually grab middle to back end first to end or back end to middle second. Now, the problem is with that is, for me personally, I'm grabbing Chase in the first so I can come back, grab Burrow as my QB1 in the second. I think that this team is going to be healthy this year. Obviously, as a fantasy football analyst, we want all players to be healthy this year. But given the situation last year, given the health of Burrow last year, if all systems are a go, if everything is good, there's no reason not to go and get Chase and Burrow with picks 1 and 2 and just knock out that stack nice and early. It's super, super accomplishable. You do need some dominoes to fall. You need to make sure that no one is super high on Burrow and grabs Burrow before you could grab Chase, or someone grabs Chase before you get Burrow. If one of those things doesn't go your way, you got to pivot. But if it works that way for you, this is the stack that I suggest to everyone, and I recommend to everyone to go out there and chase. Okay. Let's get into the wide receiver 2 situation. Unlike when we talked about the Detroit Lions yesterday on yesterday's episode of Fantasy Football Friendly, make sure that you like, comment, subscribe. This team does have a stable wide receiver 2, at least for another year. And that comes with T. Higgins, all right? When I looked on Fantasy Pros and I saw T. Higgins wide receiver 30, I kind of couldn't believe it myself, to be honest. I I mean, it is what it is. It's fair. Played 12 games last year, so that definitely impacts things. But furthermore, I mean, throughout 12 games, 42 receptions on 76 targets, 656 yards, 5 TDs. Injuries are going to happen. This is the NFL. It's a thing. All right. But you can grab T. Higgins round 7. If I could get a 7th round value on T. Higgins, that's going to move up. That's going to move up. People will see this episode and they'll be like, wait, round 7 value. Hold on, wait. We're going to rewind. Hear me read that stat line all over again. And they're going to buy into T. Higgins, especially if you guys share the content and we get enough people, seeing it. I fully believe that by the time we get mid-August, we get halfway through preseason, we could see that wide receiver 30 ADP wise definitely change. All right. I don't see T. Higgins being in a wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 conversation, to be honest. I don't not this season. Not with that backfield of Moss and Brown. I see this team definitely going through the air, especially with a healthy Joe Burrow. I see this team going through the air, lighting it up, spreading the ball around, and especially because they have a receiver that we're going to talk about again, and a tight end. They have pieces in the passing game that makes this offense scary through the air, and which, because of what they could do in the passing game, for me, it influences a lot, and the personnel they have in this passing game influences a lot of how this final grade is going to turn out. So T. Higgins, I'm in on. I understand, his yards per route run have dropped in each of the last 3 seasons, and his fantasy points per game have slipped from 15.7 to 13.1. Then cratering down to 11.5 points per game last year. I see where there's been some regression with Higgins, but I don't want to buy into that narrative. It's a different team. All right. I am going to stay on the receivers. All right. Because this young man deserves his praises saying, all right, pick 80 overall out of the draft. Jermaine Burton out of Alabama. Probably could have been an early, second round, even back in first round pick, depending on which pundits across the industry you ask. A lot of folks were high on Jermaine Burton. Me personally, I wasn't, but I think that I wasn't me looking at things in a fantasy scope. That was me purely at that time looking at NFL and off the field things. Wide receiver 68 in PPR formats is where ADP is that for Jermaine Burton. I'm not going to bring up what he did in college. What I am going to bring up is that Tyler Boyd is no longer there. Tyler Boyd moves on to the Tennessee Titans, who we'll talk about in a couple of episodes later down the line. Even as a wide receiver 3 on this Cincinnati Bengals offense, Tyler Boyd was drawing anywhere between 83 to 98 targets per season. That's 83 to 98 targets that are going to go to Burton. Or even could be split to the tight end. We'll see. Burton at 6 foot, 200 pounds. the dude, when you watch him play, he plays bigger than what he is. Bro can go up there and box out. Bro's going up there like a power forward. Again, diamond in the rough. I told you guys I was going to bring up diamond in the roughs twice with this offense. This is the second one. I have no problems with Jermaine Burton being a late round flyer for you. With you, taking a pick on Jermaine Burton. Obviously, your team's, going to have a diverse portfolio. You're not going to be drafting all fucking Cincinnati Bengals. But hey, if you miss out on a Chase, you miss out on a Higgins, you still want to get a piece of a high-octane offense that I feel personally is going to be more effective through the air than previous years due to the fact they lost Joe Mixon. I mean, come on, like why not? Why not? Why not? I feel like it's a worth it pick. Again, down in the rough, Jermaine Burton. Watch out for this kid. Watch out for this kid. All right. Finally, I do want to go ahead and hammer home the tight end. All right. The tight end position, Mike Gesicki. I got Mike Gesicki. I'm just going to look at my SFB. All right. I know that the SFB scoring settings involves a tight end premium. I know that the SFB scoring settings does involve, we're accounting for return yards and things of that nature. So that affects where certain guys get taken. I did take Mike Gesicki, and I want to go back and look. I believe with like my last pick, I want to say that it was basically damn near my last pick. Here, let me see. I want to make sure that I'm accurate with that for you guys. Okay, not my last pick. Out of 22 rounds, I took him in the 19th round. I was picking from the 103. All right. So, look, Gesicki, always down to get sicky with Gesicki. If you're going late round tight end, this is always a guy that's worth grabbing. Consensus has him at tight end 30 in PPR formats. Gesicki's not like super. It's not like this like super great. You know what I mean? Like, but on a team that doesn't really have a tight end, it's worth a shot. On a team that's gonna have to spread the ball and move things around, it's worth it. No, you're not getting a Kittle or a Kelsey out of Mike Gesicki, but we're talking about late round tight end here. 29 receptions out of 45 targets, 244 yards, 2 touchdowns. No, you're not going to get 2021 Mike Gesicki where, he was targeted 112 fucking times and caught 73 balls. Like, completely different Miami team. Those Miami offenses were built different. Last year, playing with, New England, that wasn't that great, and that wasn't that great of a team. I feel like going to a much better quarterback, going to an offense that's going to be, passing through the air a lot. Is going to be spreading the ball around. Maybe we get somewhere around. I don't think we get like 80 targets, but hell, maybe we get 60. Maybe we get 60 for Gesicki. I'm with that. I'm with that improvement for a guy that I'm going to get at the back end of my draft. It is what it is. I do like Gesicki as a late tight end type of pick, type of situation. I feel like you do need to have other tight ends ahead of him on your depth chart. And I think that's the safest way to approach drafting Gesicki. But I do think that Gesicki is rosterable. This whole team is damn near actually rosterable. So With that being said, we do have to give this team a grade. All right. When we take a look at the quarterback coming back off of, some injuries last year, I know that I said earlier, and I'm singing his praises about Big Joe, Slim Shady, Shiesty. I do have to take into account the injury history. I do have to take that into account. Even though I want to be super biased, like he's healthy, he's back, we're going to be perfectly fine. It cautions me. All right. But at a QB7 value, looking at things glass half full, loving everything at the quarterback position. The running back room does scare me. The running back room does scare me just because from a fantasy football standpoint, we're talking about guys that could very, very well likely finish at their ADP. We're talking about guys that could very well likely be in an RB2, RB3 conversation for a whole season. They could be just sufficient enough for you to kind of like plug and play. I like Zach Moss more so for the first half of the season, with Chase Brown eventually coming along and taking more carries. I can see this almost being a 50-50 kind of attack, with Chase being more effective in the passing game. Receivers: Chase, Higgins, Burton, three-headed monster. You lost Boyd. Burton's a great replacement for that. Sucks as you only get Higgins for, this year, and he's going to move on. Hey, there's going to be talent in next year's draft. But we're just looking at this team in 2024. I absolutely love this receiving core. And then I have to add in the tight end there with Gesicki. I think Gesicki's going to see a little bit of an improvement. Being on a better passing team, on a more pass prolific team than what New England was last year. This is a better situation for him. Hopefully we're praying for at least 55 to 60 targets, somewhere within that range for Gesicki, and for him to be as effective as possible with those targets. Hell, can we get 4 touchdowns? Give me 5 touchdowns. No, give me 4 touchdowns in this offense for Gesicki. I'd be happy with that. If I'm grabbing him out of the 19th round and I'm playing him maybe on a couple of bye weeks, and he's just the tight end filler for whoever I have ahead of him, maybe a Dalton Schultz, a Ferguson, etc. Other than that, ladies and gentlemen, this has been Fantasy Football Friendly. It's your boy, RumboyzRobbie. I greatly love and appreciate every single one of you. This has been our breakdown of the Cincinatti Bengals. Make sure that you guys like, comment, subscribe, share the content on all your social media. I greatly love and appreciate you. Cheers to me. Cheers to you. All the Rumboyz and girls, what it do. Dilly dilly.
Holy shit.